it got to the point where my wife had recognized that he's at a breaking point, that if I do not seek help now, I was going to follow through with it. I was just in so much pain.
Hey, what's up, guys? So today's episode is brought to you by our proud sponsor, Elevated Silence. This is one of my favorite sponsors, not only because Jim Hood is a very dear, close friend of mine. He's been on this podcast several times, but because I am an avid user of this product. As you guys know, I love to go to the range. I love to train civilians and law enforcement. And this is a suppressor that I use each and every time I go to the range. I can tell you this, every time I bring it out, I get nothing but compliments of just how quiet it is. There's people are always looking for these differences in suppressors. They want it lightweight, but with lightweight, it's probably going to be a little bit louder. The heavier the weight, it's going to be quieter. And I think Jim has found the perfect combination of both, which is why I love this suppressor. He makes everything from 22 to 300 Norma. So if you guys are looking for a suppressor for your rifle or pistol, be sure to check Elevated Silence out. Use the code SMS15 to get 15% off. And also he has some awesome merch for these red hats and this red shirt right now. If you purchase it, a percentage of the proceeds goes to the American Suppressor Association, which will defend your rights to be able to use suppressors as you should, as any American should. All right. Thank you and God bless.
All right, welcome back to Shoot Me Straight with Eddie and Dave. Today we have Preston Breece on. So Isaiah, what is Isaiah's title?
Videographer, podcast helper, Jamie. Jamie.
Pretty much our Jamie, who does everything that me and Dave are not good at, that makes this podcast what it is.
What?
Yeah, it's about 90%. But yeah, he actually brought you up a while ago. Says you own the gym that he goes and works out at. Gave very minimal in the background. I just know that you were a prior Green Beret, and I was like, yeah, bring him on. I'm all about guys running their own business and just making the best out of life after they retire or after they get out. I think it's a phenomenal thing. So I wanted you to come on and. Yeah, so that's about the extent of my knowledge of Preston Breece. So I definitely want the listeners to get to know who you are and what you're about.
Yeah. They truly, this is an amazing opportunity for me. It does not go on unappreciated in any manner. This is an opportunity to be able to be surrounded by both good people and to tell the story that hopefully can help at least one person who can relate to it or find an answer of how to work out whatever issues they may be having externally or internally. And that is just the whole purpose of sharing my story and whatever good that may come of it. So
there will be good that comes of it. Yeah. And that is the purpose, I think, of anybody's story.
That's the reason why we do this.
There is a reason why we do this. Is our big, we don't have an agenda here or anything like that. We'll have anybody on, but my main thing is everybody does have a story. Everybody has some kind of trials or tribulations that they've gotten through to get to where they're at now. And if they don't come on and share those stories or talk about how they got through those trials, you're not helping anybody else because everybody goes through similar problems. So
yeah. We've had a lot of guys that have struggled with transitioning out of military too.
Oh yeah. That's the big selection process that nobody talks about.
Yeah. That is the for the lack of the better term, that is the rough seas that are just unpredictable, and you just have to wade water long enough to make it past it.
Yeah. I try and tell guys because I still got buddies that are in, and then obviously guys that are freshly getting out, and obviously everyone's blames and they're the military doesn't prepare you. It's not their job to prepare you to get out, man. They got what they wanted out of you, and they also gave you opportunities while you were in to better yourself, but on the way out they're like, hey man, thanks for coming out. So I tell guys, I'm like, dude, when you get out and you start that transition process, you need to mentally prepare yourself that it is a harder selection process than what you did to get, into whatever career field that you had in the military. And I was like, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's the truth, man.
You think some of that is because in the military, there's these paths given to it. It's highly structured, highly, like, there's a way to go through your paths, or you have 3 options. And then when you get out, it's like you have infinite options and you have no necessarily like structured paths.
Yeah, so it's great perspective. So it's in the military, as you know, yourself or anyone knows, like you do X, you get Y and Z. To promote, to hit this school, you pass this school, you get to be on this team. You do, if you're ranked top 10% in your class, you get this opportunity on your resume that looks better to get better mission opportunities or stuff like that. So it's very well structured, and there's some gray areas on like who likes you, and that will sway that. When you get out, you're facing an enemy that you cannot see and that you don't know what they're up to, because the greatest enemy you will ever face is the one between your ears. There's no one telling you what to do, no one telling you when to wake up, no one telling you the current path that you are on is the right path or the wrong path. And a lot of guys don't realize that because they've done military service for 10, 15, 20 years and have had this guidance or people above them to say, hey, we're seeing this, we need you to redirect or shift fire. But once you get out, it's thank you for your service and you're on your own. My personal experience with getting out, unfortunately, was right at the peak of COVID. So nobody was hiring. Everybody.
What year did you get out?
I got out in 21. I left active duty in 21, and I joined the Guard and left the Guard in 24.
Okay.
So I tried to cover my bases with keeping my foot in the door in the Guard. So if the transition wasn't really for me, I could hopefully get back into active duty. And it just turns out it was the perfect storm in the sense of when I went to the Guard, I started to become more bitter towards the military. So that was my indicator to like take a step back and finally separate after 10 years. And that's the, hey, you commit, or you
10 years, that's ours.
That's the halfway mark of retirement. But yeah, so you have this invisible enemy in between your ears telling you, depending on the story that you tell yourself, you are not good enough. What are you doing? You've had this security of a paycheck, whether you work or not, for the last 10 years. Now it's up to you, and someone else gets to tell you, if you choose to work for somebody else, hey, you're only going to be worth this much, despite operating at the highest level or second to highest, minus, DECRU and CAG, which are, the tier 1 operators. Or if you were to rank them, they're the PhD levels of the military, and then SF is the masters, and then it just goes down from there. Not in order of capability, but just the amount of responsibility and effect that they have on the battlefield. So, and then you start questioning yourself, hey, I put in all this work, especially as an entrepreneur, and I'm not seeing any of the fruit of my labor yet. And you're like, am I doing what's right, not only for me, but as a married man, as a husband, and as a father? Like, your job is to provide and protect.
Yeah. I think so. And you, like, all those points you hit are like spot on. And especially with guys when they get out having trouble navigating their career fields or what they're doing next, is because in the military, you're given an end state. It's like, hey, this is what you want to be. Okay, here are the wickets that you have to hit, and here's the end state. You know what the end state is, and you know what you have to do to get to that end state. So while you're going through whatever selection process or school or whatever, you're constantly getting, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're getting feedback like, hey, you're getting closer, and this is where you're going to end up. When you get out, and I had this problem, is I still had, I still maintained the discipline. I still was like doing all the things, getting up in the morning, working out, prepping my day. But my issue was I don't know what the end state is. I'm like, what am I doing? And what's my goal? And I think for a lot of us, we're not at least myself, and I'm sure there's a lot of us saying we're not money driven. It's not like I want to be a millionaire. I could care less about money. Like I want to do something that's purposeful, that fills my cup. And yes, money is a factor and you do need to make some, but I think for a lot of us, that's where we start getting that negative self-talk to where if we don't know what our end state is and we're constantly working towards something, we're like, dude, what are you doing? You know, and then that all those little negative self-talks come in, and we're used to having that negative self-talk too, because really that's what makes you pretty proficient when you're in. Like if you're not getting up in the morning and be like, you piece of shit, you're going to, this is what you're going to do today. Then, it's like, you're not pushing yourself. That's the way that, at least we were brought up. So we're used to turning that negative self-talk into a positive while we're in and making positive effects. But that does not happen when you're out. You start going down that negative mindset and it just spirals and it doesn't stop because you don't have an end state.
Yeah. And we're not even on the scope of what coping mechanisms you bring with you from the military into the civilian world that will multiply these thoughts and these effects negatively, that you essentially have to do a whole culture shift. And when you have a career in the military, whether it be 3-4 years, 20 years, it takes some time to shift that mindset, to shift those habits and coping mechanisms in a healthy way.
What do you mean by coping?
What I was told, and this is, I think, Marcus Luttrell, when I went hung out with him, right when I got out, he was like, every 5 years that you're in the military, it takes 2 years to recover. Mm-hmm. So if you were in for 20, it's like 8 years it's until you get back to somewhat normal.
So what I mean by coping is how to
real formula.
I don't know if that's exact, but I can tell you I didn't believe it at the time. I was like, what? But it's a good point. 6 years out almost, and I'm like, I'm just now starting to I start feeling normal, or like as normal as you can feel. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, So to answer your question directly, and we'll go into that because I can speak on that too, is that coping mechanisms, how do we deal with stress in the military? The majority of the guys drink alcohol, drink like a fish, and you get good at it.
And it's a competitive sport.
You get good at it, especially, if you're around guys who like to do that. Like I remember being in the team room. Hey, what do we have left for the day? Could be noon. All right, beer lights on. Just so not only that, but then you have a team room full of A-type personalities. You're not exactly in the position to say, "Oh, I'm sad today." If you're like, you just shove it down.
You don't have like a group counseling session where you talk about your feelings at that point?
We call that in the teams. It's like, we'll take you behind the berm and smack you around a bit, and you'll get over whatever's going on.
Oh, yeah, the beatings will continue until morale improves. Yes, as the saying goes. So that with the mentality of during selection or throughout your career, you hear this often, at least I did, is suffer in silence. And that is just the alpha male mentality, or just the mentality that this type of leadership had, where if you're struggling, keep it to yourself, or don't, bring it amongst the team to where it spreads. So I took that literally, and my wife can speak on this. Anything you say to me, I tend to take pretty literally. I'm a literal guy. So if you say, "Hey, suffer in silence," cool, I just won't talk. Mm-hmm. Or, so I carry that stuff with me, where these types of things, alcohol, keeping stuff to myself, or just trying to work out any problems I had mentally in the gym, worked fine while I was in. But again, you have to take that culture shift when you're a civilian now in that transition, and it just doesn't work. Yeah. Because you're not only worrying about yourself, now I have to come home and be able to effectively communicate to my significant other, be able to communicate to my 4-year-old son in such a manner that he's not on the team, right? I can't go up to him and give him a knife hand and say, why are you doing this? He just doesn't understand. And I have to you have to turn, you have what you guys in the treasure cell now, and say, this is, I'm talking to a mini version of me. And I say this all the time, like he is karma reincarnated for the hell that I gave my father. Because, so stubborn, wild, just absolutely wild. I love it. I love everything about it. And then it goes into what you were speaking about. And I can go as far into the story that we tell ourselves is everything. That can make or break a person's spirit, morale. If you tell someone something long enough, whether they believe it or not, their brain doesn't know the difference on whether it's truth or false, and they'll start to believe it. So if you tell yourself, hey, I'm not good enough, as an example, or, if you're on the teams and everyone's always trying to outdo ourselves, the guy next to you, just to elevate yourself again and again and again, you have no one to chase now. So what is your mission? What is your purpose? And you have that self-talk of like, okay, I have no one to chase, nothing to chase now. What's my purpose? You have to define that purpose, that end state. But if you can't, you're kind of running in circles at that point. And it, it kind of spiraled me down into a place where I never thought I would be, to where I got to the point where I was such in a hole that I had to ask for help.
Suicidal.
Yeah.
No.
And for when we say, were you suicidal, were you like thinking about it, or did you actually like go to like make moves?
It was a daily thought, and I knew how I was going to do it. I didn't know when or where. And it got to the point where my wife had recognized that he's at a breaking point, that if I do not seek help now, I was going to follow through with it. I was just in so much pain. I was in so much pain with everything going on in my headspace that I had kept in, held in, not communicated openly about, that it just took a toll on me, and I'm able to carry a lot, but the weight was beginning to bury me.
Yep.
And we had reached a point where she said, hey, you need to get help like now, because I don't know if I can be around you for this. And for me, that was a wake-up call to where, as you select your spouse, as you marry your significant other, and you do it with the best intentions, you have to trust what they're telling you is for the best. And anything that she tells me, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, I take as, the right hand of God, where if she's saying it, I believe it. If anyone else says it, it's like, well, yeah, they don't really know me.
Your wife says it as gospel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the turning point for me, where I was like, okay, I had gotten out. I had the mentality of like, no, I don't have issues. I'm good. Perfect. And that only lasts so long.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So I immediately the next day contacted the Green Beret Foundation, filled out a form, and within 15 minutes they called me. And they said, hey, they ran a list. They said, are you having thoughts of suicide? And I said, yes. And they're like, okay, we'll get you started immediately for treatments. Which is pretty wild because when I wrote that down on my VA, crickets, nothing. And maybe I wasn't clear. Maybe the person recording it didn't write it down.
So you told the VA that you were having thoughts of suicide, and did they prescribe you antidepressants or anything like that?
They had me on anti-inflammatories for my hip because I had injured my hip in Afghanistan. I had torn a labrum, and it was still bothering me. And they had me on anxiety meds.
Yeah.
My whole thing was, it starts with 2, and then they offered 3 more. And I'm like, I'm good.
That's how that gets you, customer for life. It's, yeah.
So I as soon as I knew that I was going to be getting help, I immediately stopped all of it. It helped provide a Band-Aid. It wasn't the solution. And it keeps you numb.
Yeah.
So it really helped with not being able to feel anything. So that was the turning point for me to seek help. Her and I made an agreement, completely stop drinking. Best decision we ever made, by the way. Not even for a birthday, we started it March-ish this year.
Nice.
And it was amazing. Never have, especially with kids, you can't wake up hungover and be a good parent.
Yeah, and you want to feel like the biggest piece of crap. It's when you're tending to your baby and you're hungover in the morning and screaming. You're like, oh, you're like, dude, I am a horrible parent.
Yeah. So
I've been there, done that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was the best decision because not only that helped with the mental state, because the alcohol is a force multiplier. If you're in a good mood, now you're in a great mood. If you're in a bad mood, you're in an even worse mood.
Yeah.
And especially if you have lingering thoughts that you can push down while in a good state, you don't have the strength to do that while you drink, especially if there's something that spikes up old memories, or if you get into a fight with your spouse. It's always 10 times worse. Nothing ever good comes from drinking. The occasional glass of wine or stuff here, cool, get it. But
I think because I quit drinking May this year, and my wife had stopped in January. And what I found is, because and I'm sure they're like, oh, it's what all alcoholics say, but it's like, I didn't I wasn't drinking all the time. I have a couple drinks or whatever, but I was like, you know what? I want to just see what it feels like to completely give it up. My wife had, the beginning of the year given it up, and plus I was like, I don't want to drinking alone now. I have my couple drinks, she used to have a couple with me. So I was like, all right, I'm going to quit on my birthday. And what I have found is not only, obviously you wake up feeling way better. Even after, if you just have a drink, it still affects you in the next morning.
Oh yeah.
But for us, because it sounds like listening to you talk, we have a lot of the similar, and I think we're no different than a lot of us that come from our career. A little bit, whether you want to call it, negative mindset. We all have a little bit of depression, just from the repercussions of what we did. And I found that if you're drinking, like you just said, even if you're not drinking that day, it's the next day, you have a lot harder time once that depression bug bites you, right? And I'll get bit by it every once in a while, and that negative self-talk will start coming in. And if I have been drinking, it's so much harder to defeat that. Where now that I'm not, it's like I know when it's coming, and I'm like, all right, I can sit there and set myself up to get over that and not let it overtake me. You know what I mean? And I like you said, I don't think there's anything wrong. And for people that do drink, it's like, dude, go ahead, that's your right. But I do think for people like us, I would definitely have heavily weigh again. I'd be like, dude, you should give that up and see how you feel mentally. Just do that one step. And then 3 months from now, you tell me how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And then we can start moving forward on some other things.
Yeah. And to caveat on that, alcohol not only improves your mental state, but if you have issues with brain fog
Mm-hmm.
or any other mental obstacles to overcome. Now we can venture into your 3 months alcohol free. Now we can go look at your blood work.
Yeah.
Right. So you get your blood work done while you're in service, which is what I did. I've always been very intrigued on how do we create the best version of ourselves, or the, super soldier. How do we get them to have the best resources, to be in the best shape, best training, all of this stuff. And what I found is a lot of facilities give you all the toys, all the money you want to do all the training, but very few are like, hey, you need to take X, Y, and Z to be the most optimal, healthy version of yourself, whether it be your mental state or your physical state. Because the term that we always use is take a knee, pull security, drink some water, you'll be fine. Or, take an ibuprofen from the 18 Delta and get over it. That was it. You fought broken, you trained broken. They just did not care. It's the military, as beautiful and great as it is a machine. And once they get what they want out of you, you're done. That's it. They'll break you. If you allow it to, they will break you. If you don't take care of yourself, it is your responsibility to take care of yourself, both mentally and physically. That is my core belief, because no one is coming to save you.
You think also is the culture of it, and I'm not saying that it's wrong during your service. You can't really be working on yourself in some ways during that time. But when you get out, you're not only dealing with, okay, this whole new way of life, you're also dealing with all the past shit you've stuffed for years and years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
All the traumatic stuff.
Well, that's not even
into the head.
And that's, you're talking about stuff from your career, right?
Yeah.
And you're not even talking about stuff before your career,
Childhood.
which is what I'd like to. Well, can we go back just for a little bit? I just want to know, like, obviously, you were Green Beret for how long?
10 years.
10 years. So what drove you to become a Green Beret? Because honestly, and I've talked to so many people and especially my friends, and the trauma that people have when they get out. What I found is like, dude, it started way before.
Oh yeah.
There's a reason why you decided to go into this field, and a lot of us come from trauma in our background that drove us to go in that direction.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was when I sought help that I actually discovered this, where the actual trauma came from. And it was so easy to overlook because it actually came from not bad memories. It was actually from good memories that I had. Memory is such a finicky thing that you remember what you want to remember, especially when it comes to the finer details.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you play that memory of that story enough times growing up, that is what when you look back on it, that's the only thing that you remember. You don't see the other stuff that maybe have gone on where, if your parents are still present, they're like, hey, yeah, that did happen, but also this did happen. And you just blocked it out. And it kind of just shakes your world. So growing up, nothing crazy. My parents weren't married. So I had, it was great. I had 2 birthdays, 2 Christmases. It was, it was good. My mom was from South America. So I'm technically half Latin. And her culture says that you need to be the best. Like all A's. If you do a B, you get it. You're getting a smack. Because it just means you're not trying hard enough. And with my dad, it was almost the polar opposite, where he was like, hey, did you put in the effort? That's all I care about. I don't care about the result. I care about if you studied, if you gave it your all, if you did something that didn't equate to the grade that you wanted, let's figure out what it is and correct it, self-correct. So she gave me the half of me that strives to be the best. He gave me the mentality of problem solving. in a very unique way. He was very unique in the mindset of, what is the issue we have? How can we fix it? If not in a traditional way, how do we do it in a unique way to get to the end state? To complete it. Doesn't have to look pretty, but how do we get from X and from A to B? So those two things kind of created their own pros and cons. With my mom, it gave me the want and strive to be the best. It also gave me a ton of anxiety of like, if I do not accomplish this, I'm a failure. With my dad, he gave me the unique skill to problem solve, but he also gave me the ability to say, I tried, but did I really try? And it's okay. So it was kind of
two opposite ends of the spectrum
a
almost.
weird mix.
Yeah.
So I went into, growing up in Miami, it was a very different place just because the culture down there was, you make a lot of money and you party. At that time, early 2000s, that's what it was.
Pretty sure it's still like
Yeah.
So, and I got sucked into it. I was no better than anybody else. I had fun. I saw I worked security just because my best friend was an Army Ranger, and him and I actually disconnected for about 4 or 5 years while he was in service, and we reconnected randomly in the gym. I was like, "Hey, I think I know you," and he's like, "Yeah." His name's Mike, and he went on to do great things. He did his service. He went to college, got his degree. Now he's working for a 3-letter agency and just crushing it. Absolutely. So he was the older brother that I never had because he's older than me. So I took a lot of guidance from him, and he actually kept me out of trouble a lot because he was a very good, strong example of what to do versus what not to do. And that is something that always stuck with me, is that as a parent, as a teammate, as a business partner, spouse, you can be, there is a gray area, but you can be one of two things. You can be the example or you can be the warning. You get to choose which one you want to be. And sometimes depending on the scenario, you're like, oh, I made a mistake. That's not what you're supposed to do or say. And let me go back to being the person that I want people to know me as, my legacy. So he's the one that really got me into the Army. All I had known was Navy SEALs, right? So I was like, they're like, hey, I know, what do you want to do in the military? They're like, hey, what do you want to do in the military? I was like, I want to be the best. And at that time, the book about the Bin Laden raid came out. So I was reading.
Which one?
The Rob O'Neill one. And I read, like, at that point, I had read all the Navy SEAL books, and I was like, okay, cool. I grew up. My dad was a lifeguard. I grew up swimming. I was like, this is perfect. Like, I'm gonna go in the Navy. I'm gonna crush it. I'm gonna be a SEAL. And I think you spoke upon this. Like, you have guys who go to buds who know that they're gonna make it, or they're like, I'm not sure. I knew with my heart. I was like, you will have to pull my limp, lifeless body before I quit anything that you give me. And I loved it. I thrived off of that when, and I'll get to this here in a sec. So let me backtrack. So he was the one like, hey, you don't want to do that. You want to be a Ranger. So I was like, okay. Because he was the only source of information that I had at the time. I didn't have anyone in my life that could tell me otherwise or could tell me why being a SEAL was better. So I took his word for it, and I was like, okay, cool. I see what the way he took his life and the structure that he had, the mentality that he had is like, great, I want that. This is what you did to get what you have now. I want the same thing. So I was like, okay, cool. So I made every mistake in the book. I was in a hurry to enlist, didn't finish college, and my recruiter was the typical recruiter.
Yeah. He was doing his job.
Yep. Yeah. He was like, oh, great, you want that? Sure. Sign right here. And I was like, cool. So I'm going to be a ranger then. He's like, oh yeah, man, you're good.
Sure thing.
You're good.
Is this over days or do they just like sign you up that day?
So it depends on how you test at MEPS.
Yeah.
So you walk into the recruiter's office, they give you the song and dance, promise you the world, unless you know better and you have someone like a veteran guiding you on like, hey, get it in your contract. So I was like, okay. They didn't have any options. It's called an option 40 for the Army Ranger to get it in your contract to go straight to selection from basic. And so they didn't have any option 40 contracts left. So I would have had to wait till the next fiscal year until new contracts opened up. And I didn't want to wait because I was in a rush. I was like, I'm in a hole here. If I stay, I'm going nowhere. And I needed some structure in my life. My father at that point took the mentality of like, hey, you're 22. You got to figure this out. He was like, you can stay in the house, you can pay rent, but you need to figure out what you want to do. I can't tell you. I can't tell you what you want to do with your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay. At the time, knowing everything, because I was 22, right? I was like, oh, you're willingly not trying to help me or guide me, and I was being an angry teenager in a sense because I just didn't know any better. And looking back now, being 36, I'm like, this is the best thing that he could have done for me. So the recruiter gave me the song and dance, didn't have any contracts. I was like, I don't care. He's like, you can earn this in basic. I was like, okay. I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll do a good job and they'll just offer me a contract when I get there. Because I had spoken to like 2 or 3 different recruiters. I'm like, are you sure? I go, because I'm taking a huge bet here. And they're like, oh yeah, you're good. You're good. Like, you're gold. We got you.
Yeah.
Right?
They've never seen anything like you before.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. I was like, I like my chances. You guys are really pumping me up right now. So I went down there, I tested. They were like, what job do you want to be? I'm like, I was like, well, I want to do something cool. And they're like, infantry. I was like, sounds good. Didn't even know what I was getting myself into. And so that was it. I had a ship date like 6 months later. And I left with a backpack with a book, a change of clothes, and $25 to my name. I was like, okay, this is it. Went to basic. I think I crushed it. I was a little bit older than everybody. I was 23. I turned 23 in basic, but I knew to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
Not telling anyone it was my birthday, especially in basic. And naturally fell into the leadership position role. Took the brunt of the abuse from the drill sergeants because I had no idea what I was doing, and I was trying to direct guys and be that leader that they need me to be, which is essentially a talking parrot regurgitating what the drill sergeant wants them to do. And in basic, my drill sergeant approached me. It got to the point where we were on the back end of OSET, so one station unit training where they combine basic and advanced individual training for infantry. So we're there for 14 weeks straight on Fort Benning in Georgia. It was on the back end, so I had about 5 weeks left of basic, not an ounce or an inkling of a contract. So I was like, okay, this something's kind of fishy. And so I start every single day. I would go to the drill sergeant's office. I'd say, hey, drill sergeant, I have a question. He's like, what? I was like, I want a contract. He's like, get the F out of my office. I went back religiously every single day to the point where every time I walked in the office, they didn't even have to hear what I had to say. They were like, just get out. So I bugged him. I was like, this is what I want. Got to the point where I left it alone. And then that was the beginning of me coming to the realization of like, okay, if this is something I really want, I need to be proactive about it. So as we would march between different things, I would see recruiter signs with phone numbers on it. So I said, okay, so I'd pull up my notepad in formation discreetly, write down the numbers of the recruiting station for these units. And as soon as I got my phone, I was like, okay, as soon as I get my phone, I have a game plan. I'm going to call them. I will beg, steal, do whatever I have to do to to get the opportunity to do this, because this just wasn't my plan to be part of a frontline unit.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with it. I would have gained so much information from that. It just wasn't in my plan to do that at first. About a week before graduation, my drill sergeant approached me and he's like, "Hey, I have a special assignment for you." In my mind, I was like, great, he wants me to cut the grass, or he wants me to clean the shitters. He hands me a piece of folder. He hands me a folder. He's like, "Hey, fill this out to me and get it back to me." And I opened it up and it said 18 X-ray contract. Didn't know what that was. I was like, what is a Green Beret? No idea. So he pitched me what it was. He was like, you get ranked up faster, college credits, because I didn't go to college. So that was a big thing for me. My mom being Latin, she was like, you need college. So college credits, better pay, shorter deployments, and you get to do cool stuff. It's like, cool, sold. Signed it. The only remote thing that I knew about what a Green Beret was surviving the cut. That was the closest thing I knew to what.
Oh, that's that documentary series.
Yeah. So that was the only thing that I knew, that I was like, great, I'm going to have to go through, 3-4 weeks of getting my stuff pushed in through the selection process. So signed it, went to airborne school, and it turned out to be the best fit, because they actively look for guys who strive to be the best and think outside the box, which are the two things that my parents gave me. So it indirectly set me up for success when I went into selection, because I looked at certain things differently than maybe it wasn't so cut and dry. Maybe if I did this way, that it would actually work better. And it ended up doing that. And I kept that same mentality through the whole selection process. They say that people who get selected, 10% make it through the course period. And then 10% of that 10% make it through first time go, meaning they don't get recycled, they don't get for any reason. And I, surprisingly because I had very limiting self-belief. I was like, who am I to be special forces? Who am I to do this really, really cool thing that less than 0.01% of the world was doing? I had never done anything as a prerequisite to set myself up for that. And here I am doing it. And it was just like one feat after another, where I was like, wow, maybe I can do this. And what kind of I would immediately have that self-confidence start to creep in, and then I'd get to the next phase, and the instructor is like, "You're not going to make it." I was like, oh, shit. So, but that was the role that they had to play. They had to weed out people who couldn't handle it mentally, because we were all physically fit. You're all on the same level at that point. So they have to do something that will stress you out a different way to weed out people who will give up mentally. So whenever my strength or my unique ability was, whenever they said, "Hey, we are going to continue to smoke you guys until someone quits," not to quote Jocko, but I was like, good. I was like, because I'm going to have to pass out in order for them to drop me, because that word does not exist in my vocabulary. I quit. So I went through this whole thing, and then I'm like, cool, got my beret, I made it. Just like a new SEAL out from Buzz makes it to the team. It's like, all right, I'm an equal. You get to the team, new guy.
Yeah, go clean the shitters.
Exactly. So they're like, new guy. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So it was a reset. So you make it. The way that I equated it to is like, you get afforded the opportunity to intern, which is go through the Q course, in order to become a temp at this new job, which is on the team, because you can get kicked off teams if you're just not pulling your weight. And then and only then, after a certain amount of years, you earn your right to stay there. Right?
What was your MLS?
So I was an 18 Bravo.
Okay.
Which is interesting, because in selection, they give you like a dream sheet or a wish list of like what you want to do for your profession. And I'm not really good with medical stuff. I can do it when the situation arises. I don't do that. I don't find it interesting. I'll do it for fun. It kind of just doesn't sit well with me. And I didn't want to be a commo guy. I didn't want to do demolitions or engineering. So I was like, okay, I like guns. I had shot, I had my concealed. I was like, I'm good. I can shoot. I'd shot, 10 rounds. But on the paper, they're like, why do you want this job? And I'm like, oh, I go hunting. I shoot all the time. Like, I was in control of my own destiny at that point. And so I always say that I always lucked out and got the job that I wanted, got the unit that I wanted. Funny story behind why I got 7th group. So on the very last week of selection, the last couple of days, you do this language test that will test your competency on the ability to learn a new language, because language school is a part of our pipeline. And it turns out if you fall asleep halfway through the test, you test really low. And the lower you test, the greater chance you have of getting Spanish. And 7th group is Spanish. So it actually worked out. That way. Because you're coming straight off of team week, which is mandated. You only get 4 hours of sleep a night, which, I mean, for you guys is amazing.
Yeah, well, for a hell week.
Yeah. So it was a full week of team week, 4 hours a night. But from wake up to when you put your head to rest, it's go time. Like you're making it from one meal to the next. And so yeah, they give you one full night of rest, but you're having 4 or 5 days of debt of lack of sleep or exhaustion that you have to catch up. So, I had a full belly full of food. They set you down in a warm computer for like an hour and just would drone off, and I'd say, C, B. And the funny part is I walked out of that test and I had a buddy of mine I went through basic with and all this other stuff. And I go, man, how'd you do? He's like, dude, I crushed it. I noticed this, and this. He's like, how'd you do? I was like, I fell asleep. Yeah, he ended up doing worse than I did. So that was just, a little bit of humor and some of the worse, tougher parts of that is always good. It's always nice. So I went through that whole selection process, went to group, did all that stuff, and then
So after that selection, I'm going to ask for TK moments.
Yeah.
After your selection, you have what options? 7th group is one option. 18th, is that what you said was another?
so there's 5 groups. There's 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 10th group.
Okay.
For the active duty units, and then you have 19th and 20th for National Guard units.
Gotcha.
So again, they give you the dream sheet of what group, your top.
Does it specialize in some, or is it geographical?
Yes, and no. Some overlap with, GWAT.
Yeah.
Some overlapped just because, we needed more guys there.
Sure.
But yes, it's geographical to where some go to Asia. Some 7th group specializes in Central and South America and Afghanistan. And then you have all these other groups have their own specific language that they speak. So some are French because they do a lot of stuff with French in Africa, things of that nature. Ours is Spanish. Some are Pashto or
The language plays a huge thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
With yours, it was like East Coast groups and West Coast groups.
And it's the same. It's just built a little bit differently. But yeah, each team back in the day, in the 90s, before, each team had its own area of operation. So East Coast was like South America, Europe, and it's still like that to this day. But because when 9/11 happened, they did it what was called Force 21, and then all of us started deploying to the Middle East. We still had to cover down on certain areas of operation, like they still had to cover down on Europe, South America, but those numbers were less. It was like, hey, we need manning for the GWAT, but I think it's back to that now. It's the same premise, except for language. We really we're not. They're like they did start implementing that when I first. I think when I got my Trident, they were like, hey, you guys, we're starting implementing this language, and you guys will get to go to language school there. But SEALs are like, dude, most of them like, fuck that. So like we just abacadabra it and we're like, dude, you can't, you're not good at it. Like, yeah, of course. And you get sent to your team. But
Yeah.
they were mandating bud students for a while, going through SQT, go to language. And they just found out, they're like, this isn't, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze here. Like it's delaying guys getting to the team.
Yeah.
So they did away with that.
So like it was still between the two, like Green Berets will be more focused on like leadership and language is really
Our mission sets are different.
yours are more direct action.
Yeah. So they
Even though y'all both can do.
Yeah, theirs is by, with, and through, hearts and minds, take over, not take over, but get a populace to start believing in them and then fighting for themselves. Like they create their own little armies when they go in. Ours are, hey, you're going in to hit this target. So like a lot of the time, sometimes we'll get intel off or ODA unit that's been like, hey, this is what's going on in this area. And if they don't have the bodies, we'll go in and hit whatever we need to, get in and get out.
So yeah, so same but different, right? So like seals are more of like a very specific tool, such as like surgery, like consider it like a scalpel. They're very precise. They have a very specific niche that they are very good at. Green Berets are more broad spectrum antibiotics, where what we do takes a little bit more time, but the capabilities that we're able to do are a little bit wider.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Right. So for you, like what was new for you towards the end of the war, I think, was working with the partner force and then letting them go out while you kind of stay behind.
Yeah.
That's all I knew, because we work with and through them, where Green Berets are known as force multipliers, where we go in with have you ever seen the movie 12 Strong? So we go into a enemy territory, team up with the militia, establish rat lines, black market deals, stuff to, in the grand spectrum of things, like topple corrupt governments, or and to increase the ability for people to stand up against and oppress,
Free the oppressed.
to free the oppressed, de oppressor libera.
Yeah.
Yes, which is, I can tie into your foundation too. Like that motto equates to the same.
Yeah.
To free the oppressed, and that is our mission, is hearts and minds, nothing more. Nothing, we all join to kick in doors, shoot people.
You both can, both can, right? And sometimes do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with the 20 years of war, I was there from the invasion all the way to the end. We all started melding and doing each other's jobs. It's just, there wasn't enough. There was too much work and not enough bodies to go around. So I know in 2008 is when I was like, we started doing a Green Beret job where they were like, hey, you guys are doing VSO now, Village Stability Operations. And that was, they sent my whole SEAL platoon out in the middle of nowhere. And we're like, what? First off, what is, the coin strategy, and then Village Stability Operations. And we messed that up right off the bat when we were like, some dudes were on ICOM, and we're like, yep, all right, you're dying. And we killed them. And they're like, hey, this is not, you guys are supposed to be building relationships. And we're like, why did you send us out here? But we all, like, obviously, we can all do each other's job.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's like, should we be, like, we should be focused on exactly what we're, supposed to be doing. Because you guys are 10 times better at doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Like for us, it's like, yeah, we can figure it out and we'll make it work, but we're not even doing it as close to how you guys can do it. And it's like the opposite ends of the spectrum, the same thing. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I guess like the biggest differentiator is they are tactical and strategic at the same time. But what they do specifically is tactical, boots on the ground. We're more strategic, where we want the ability to affect tens of thousands of people, and they're looking for that top 10 guy on the most wanted list.
Gotcha.
And we help them gather that intel and work. We're all alpha mentalities, right? So when we get our missions stolen from the SEALs, and I'm like, these bitches, like, I can't believe they did that. Like, this is our mission.
and we come in and create about 20 more enemies for them. And they're like,
I was just pissed off everybody. They're like, oh, they're gonna mess it up. Like, there's definitely some animosity when it comes to that. But you put yourself in a room with a SEAL and a Green Beret.
yeah,
They're two sides of the same coin.
yeah.
It just looks a little bit different. And
What's interesting is how y'all split, how language being a big part of how you separate your teams or your divisions.
yeah, so it's a great point because language school is 6 months straight, Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. You're in a classroom just like this with one instructor with 4 or 5 people, and you're learning an entire language from ABC to being able to talk about strategic operations and how to implement forces doing X, Y, and Z. Like by the end of the 6 months, depending on how serious you take it, you're speaking like a local.
Wow.
A very
Teach a lot of
educated,
cultural stuff too.
very educated vocal. So you speak like you went through university because the instructors teach you that way. You probably couldn't get away with being someone who grew up there because you don't speak in slang. But that's something that you kind of pick up along the way. Case in point, why it is so important for us to do that is my very first deployment was to Central America, to Panama. And one of my meetings there was with the general of the military force there. And I'm just like an E6 25-year-old having to translate what we're trying to do with his guys and how this is going to help him combat the FARC, the Colombian drug lords, like all this other stuff, and being able to effectively communicate and show him that I can communicate not with like that color is red or my name is Preston. Yeah, like the Yama. Yeah, hey, me hungry. Yeah, a lot of pointy talk. Yeah, I know if I can do that and communicate, like, and they do the same thing where we all have this story where we feel foolish if we can't effectively talk like how we want to talk, but they appreciate the effort, and we do too. Like when they try and speak Spanish or speak English, if you right off the bat say, hey, you help me practice my Spanish, I'll help you practice your English. It's immediate rapport. Yeah, and that is something that a unique ability that I was able to pick up when I lived in South Florida because there was always ulterior motives. So I was able to almost naturally be able to read someone on if they're like a good person or trustworthy based just off the first interaction. That where I could, if my gut kind of told me like, I'm not quite sure about them, or if I guess like the first thing for me was if I shook someone's hand and they kind of like shook it and looked away, I was like, okay, I can't trust you. But if I shook your hand, you look me in the eye, I'm like, okay, he's confident. He's able to,
It's not hiding anything.
yeah, he's able to actively engage. And I'm like, okay, I can respect this guy right off the bat. And then it's up to him in order to lose that respect or to show me otherwise.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, language is such an important thing because you can also use that outside of your job. Now you have the ability to communicate with businesses outside the US, or you have the ability to be the dumb tourist and listen to what they're saying, trying to take advantage of you. Or in a worst case scenario, you play the dumb tourist and you're like, okay, these guys are trying to kidnap me, or they're trying to do something nefarious while you're on vacation, and you can carry that with you the rest of your life. That's why
almost like some espionage type skills, like CIA type, or your body language and reading people. And
Yeah. I mean, it's just more understanding the culture and showing respect and knowing the language, but also using that to your benefit, if you like to save you later on down the line.
Yeah. Should you ever need it, you probably never will. We're not, they make you feel like, oh, you're going to leave the military and you're going to be like Jason Bourne. Everyone's going to be after you, right? Nobody knows who you are, unless you're on TV. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was such a very unique and an amazing opportunity to learn that language again, because I had it when I was a kid. I lost it when I lived with my dad, and then I gained it back. And then, I would always kind of mess with my wife by speaking in Spanish because she had no idea what I was saying. So we, that was a nice little playful banter when we first met, which leads me down to, I'll get to how we met here in a second, but, yeah, it ultimately led me down a career that had its highs and lows. I looked to other guys who had been on the team for a while on like what their mannerisms were, how they coped with toxic leadership, and it was pretty much around the same thing. We just drank and was like, it is what it is, right? We're not going to be able to get rid of this E8 that's leading our team. We just have to abide by his rules.
Yeah. And still accomplish the mission.
Correct. But again, as a young enlisted man, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know how much control over your career you really have, to an extent, right? The senior enlisted guys do have some say because they have pull, they have seniority, they know the right guys to make or break your career. My personal issue was I never considered myself a brown noser or like people pleaser, and some people didn't like that. Guys on my team were like that, and I just like once 5 o'clock hit, I was like, hey, I'm out. I'm going home to kind of live my life. This is a part of my life. This isn't my whole life. And then you have guys on the team who will stay there because their life sucks.
Yeah.
And they will force you to stay there or make you feel bad because you're leading them, because crabs in a bucket will pull everybody else down because they don't want you to leave. So once I picked up on that, I started to see kind of a shift in who was getting favoritism, because they were willing to stay late. They were willing to go to team parties and do all the stuff that I just kind of didn't want to do. Not that I disliked the guys. I did like the guys on my team, but at the same time, when I got out, none of them checked on me.
Yeah.
None of them were like, hey, how are you doing? How's life? None of them knew about the struggles that I had. Hell, when I told people when I was getting out, they wrote me off immediately.
Oh yeah.
So I had a
quitter. All right.
Yeah. I had a major. He was like, hey, I heard you getting out. I was like, yes, sir. I think it's my time. And he's like, you fucking traitor. Turned his back on me and walked away. And I was like, cool. Thanks for justifying why I'm getting out and why we have a retention problem of guys wanting to stay in because of stuff like that. Had certain conversations gone differently, or, I can say this, had my experience been different, could I have seen myself staying in? Yeah, probably, because I had a guy, my day one experience was going to a dive team and then being like, okay, you're going to carry this anchor with you at all times. And if we call you and you don't have your anchor, you're going to be smoked for hours. It's like, okay. So I'm walking around the company with this anchor, rope and anchor. And then the guy right next door who's on a Halo team, he was like, oh my God, it was amazing. I was like, what? I was like, what was your experience? Because mine was terrible. And he's like, yeah, I walked in, team sergeant was like, hey, how much do you bench? And do you want a shot of Fireball? And I was like, oh, okay. So two completely vastly different experiences. He stayed in.
Yeah.
He's flourishing. I got out, and I have a very bitter taste in my mouth when it comes to certain styles of leadership. Because again, you hit the nail on the head where I can't say the military is broken or the military is, as a whole, is one certain thing just because of a few people who decide to run it a certain way.
Yeah, and it really does come down. I always said this when I was in, like, especially as I got up into leadership roles, like, I was going around, I was at different teams and just did different platoons. And what I came to realize, and this is not like a straight fact, but I think I'm pretty right on this. A person's personality in the teams and how they act and all stems down to their first platoon and how they are treated in that platoon, what the culture is in that platoon. That's pretty much it. Even if they decide to stay in, they carry that kind of legacy and culture with them, even if they don't know. It's like subconsciously. So when I saw certain new guys, as I got up in the ranks and leadership, like, that were entitled, or like not even like these are second platooners, and they just had this like arrogance about them, like, oh, I would look back at their leadership before them and be like, oh, because I usually everybody, like, now I see why they act like this. And then you'd have, like, when I was a new guy, our older guys treated us with respect, but they hazed us. You know, there was a hazing of like, hey, you're welcome to the platoon, like you're now in. But it was never you were hazed just for the sake of hazing, like you're a new guy. Where my sister platoon, they got their crap pushed in daily. I'm talking hazed all the time. And then guess what? That carried on the next platoon when those guys now got in charge of like, this is how we're treating. And that just, it continues on like that. And you make or break careers like that as well. Like there was new guys in that sister platoon that got out because they were like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I expected.
Yeah.
Of course, you can never voice that because then you're like, you're a pussy, if you speak up. But yeah, those little subcultures within the culture of SF or the SEAL teams make or break people's careers.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, or worse, you become a martyr. You stay in, and then that becomes your reputation. That becomes your reputation, and then all you get is these staff jobs or these details that nobody else wants. All these other teams have this preconceived notion of who you are because somebody they trusted heard something. And now they have this idea in their mind of who you are as a person or as a teammate before ever meeting you. And they have full say of like, hey, yeah, we don't want him on our team. Send him to a staff job or something like that. And as soon as I said I was getting out, they were like, cool, boom, staff job. I was like, okay, I understand. Like, you guys can't really continue to invest in me as a teammate. You want to open up that slot to somebody else. That's great. And then I kind of questioned, I was like, maybe I do want to stay, or like, this was only supposed to be a temporary position. I was told this was only going to be for 6 months and then they'll bring me back to a team. 6 months turned into a year. And I was like, what is going on? And they're like, oh yeah, tried to fight for you, but you're just not having it. And I was like, I don't know. Something just feels off. And I kind of got a peek behind the curtain one time when we were gearing up for our 19 deployment to Afghanistan. A friend of mine from a different battalion came over because he wanted to get on this deployment. And he knew this sergeant major. He knew him fairly well and said, hey, Sergeant Major, whatever I have to do to get on this deployment, I want to go to war. Let me be a part of this, please. He's like, I got you. He's like, to his face, he said, I got you. Don't worry about it. We'll figure something out. Soon as he left, I think I was just in the vicinity or something happened where I had to go to his office. And he looked me square in the eye and was like, yeah, he's just not one of my guys. I'm not going to take care of him. I was like, oh, okay. So it's like that.
Yeah.
Cool. So they'll say it to my face, and then behind closed doors are like,
it's passive aggressive leadership. Yeah. That's all it is. And that I saw swoop in around 2012, 2013, and that was through every community. These leaders, for some reason, did not want confrontation. They didn't want to like come out and tell you what the ugly truth was.
Yeah.
They would, do this passive aggressive type leadership where then they don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, guys? If you've been following me for a while, you know I'm a huge fan and supporter of Firecracker Farm. Alex, the owner, is not only an incredible human being, but he makes an incredible product. And that is why we could not be happier that they are sponsoring the Shoot Me Straight podcast. Each guest, when they come in, will get a sample of Firecracker Farm so they can take it back and enjoy. And I can tell you, to each person that we've given it to, they have not been disappointed. You can put these, put this salt on your favorite food, favorite beverage. I've even seen people put it in their coffee. They love it. There's an assortment of heat, so if you don't like it too hot, they definitely have that taken care of with some mild flavors. And then it goes all the way to extreme heat if you like to sweat. So if you guys are interested in purchasing some, go to firecracker.farm. All right, thank you for listening, and God bless.
So I saw the bureaucracy and they're essentially politicians.
Yeah.
You make drug deals behind closed doors, like, hey, you do this for me, I'm gonna do this for you, or I will do this staff job if you give me this in return, or like you put on paper that I can have this, I can have a team when I get done. So that was a contributing factor of like, okay, it's, we're not everyone here is face value. cool. It's too much unknown variables for me to confidently say that this is a fair system. If I'm a top performer and I do my job well, but because you don't like me, I don't get to go to this school that I would give a finger for, just because you don't like me, and you're gonna give to somebody else because they laugh at your jokes. Okay, yeah,
Because they're politics.
not for me.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly what happened. I got a dream sheet of like, hey, what schools you want to go to? I want to go to ASOT level 2, level 3, which is intelligence gathering. Think working sources like CIA does.
Okay.
Gathering human intel, and stuff like that. I was like, that is my career that I want to do outside the military. I want to work for a 3-letter agency. They're like, great. They had me 3 options. I gave them 2. I was like, only want these 2. I don't want any other school, because I had already done dive school at that point. And they're like, great, Ranger School. And I was like, that I don't want to go. But Ranger School is like it's considered a leadership school, and it was a good old boy type thing where if you had that on your resume, they're like, okay, I like this guy over who I didn't do it.
Is that the Q course?
No.
Their school's Ranger, separate school.
Gotcha.
So the Q course has, they've actually condensed it now. It used to be, for me, it took 2 years.
Okay.
Because between each phase was, 3 to 6 months long. And there was sometimes you'd have to wait about a month between each phase. So it kind of elongated it. So guys who went to 18 Delta course were just getting out of the 18 Delta course when I was on the back end of the Q course, right? Because the 18 Delta course is 9 months long.
Yeah.
And which is funny because you do the 18 Delta course and then you start the Q course. So if you don't fail out of the 18 Delta course, you still have the opportunity to fail in the Q course. So it was just, it's a lot. It's a lot to be a medic, and as it should be, because you have a very heavy responsibility to take care of guys. So yeah, there's
Started Ranger School.
So I opted out. I just told them it's just not for me. And that was towards I had already the mentality of like, I'm getting out anyway. I was in a practice PT test on a 5-mile run, and I stopped halfway through the run because I just stopped and I'm like, who am I doing this for? Am I doing this to impress some sergeant major that could really care less if I pass or not? Or am I doing this because I want to do it?
Yeah.
And I was like, do I want to do this? And I just said, nope. I was like, okay. So I took my sweet time getting back. And the E8 at the end was like, what happened? And I'm like, it's just not for me. I'm not doing this for myself. And if I'm not going to do it for myself, I can't do it at all. I can't bring myself to do it to appease other people. You respected that answer. And then I got out. Got out meaning I switched to the National Guard, and that's when COVID hit.
So did you do your deployment to Afghanistan before this Ranger School?
Yes. So my first deployment was to Panama, where I got the experience to communicate with higher-ranking officials in a second language to me, which was amazing. And then 2017 and 2019 were back-to-back Afghan deployments.
Okay.
Yeah.
How were the 3 total?
So yeah, 3. Yeah, if you count the one to Panama, which is,
For sure.
It's a deployment.
yeah. So 2 vastly different experiences, but amazing experiences nonetheless. The first deployment, I was terrified because I didn't know what to expect, and I just thought we were going to be getting after it every day. Yeah. Turns out that's not the case. Turns out there is a significant amount of downtime when there's bad weather and depending on the area that you're in. So we were very fortunate enough to be on a very small American base that was within an Afghan base.
Where is this at?
This was up in northern Afghanistan. forgive me, I'm blanking on the
That's all right.
I think it starts with a K. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. But we're up in northern Afghanistan, and we were like a small little SF base, blacked out, with our infantry support guys there that were running security on the base while we did more of the intel gathering and ran drills and stuff like that. But which was like really was, I thought we were just running and gunning, like, because that's what they tell you, like, oh, as soon as you get there, you have to act this way, that way, because if you don't, you're gonna die. Right? Which is partially true. But we did a lot of training, with the partner force. Like, it was literally, 3 or 4 Green Berets with 100 Afghanis on a shooting range.
Oh, wow.
Which was completely nerve-wracking to me because, again, I think in extremes where if I don't care who you are, if you've been vetted, if you are somebody's sister's cousin's husband, if you did not have the American flag on your shoulder, I did not trust you.
Oh.
At all. Even some of the dudes with the American flags, I can't really trust.
Yeah.
But
There's enough green on blues at that time, before then, they earned that distrust. It's like, you can't. Yeah, I'd always have eyes in the back of my head no matter what. And even if they were like, oh, these guys are vetted, everything's good to go, I'm like, yeah, sure. By who?
means absolutely nothing.
Yes.
Green on blues.
That's what we call green on black. So if a Afghan or Iraqi partner force turns and just starts shooting Americans, and it's happened multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done, and that's part of like that job is that, which I couldn't stand. I did the commando mission for a bit, and flying in with 40 Afghans, 3 SEALs on the bird, and I remember I was like, dude, if I accepted death, but I was like, dude, if I die doing this, I'm like, this is just stupid, dude. Like, from the get-go, this is a dumb idea. Yeah.
Were you worried just how untrained they were? Like, some of them may not have even shot guns that much. And
Yeah, so the Afghanis had, or the commandos had, their own SF team, which were actually pretty good.
okay.
The thing that happens is that it's not that they actively want to. Some do. I won't speak in absolutes, but it's not that they're actively looking to kill Americans. What will happen is the Taliban or ISIS will kidnap
One of their family
members and say, "You do this, or we will execute them."
Yeah.
So they're kind of forced to do it. So that's where a lot of the uncertainty comes from. And there are things called key leadership engagements, KLEs, where an ODA unit will go meet with a higher ranking, or, as you put it, whatever rank they give themselves, the highest ranking military official or like elder in the village, to communicate and say, hey, we're here to help you. Here's money, here's food, to build rapport with that. And during KLEs, you're a target of opportunity because you're going from point A to point B, where they know that it's their homeland. So they know, and they know exactly, everyone knows where you're going, when you're doing it. And everyone has cell phones. Before, I heard you mention, like, anyone with a cell phone at the beginning of the war was questionable or up to nefarious acts. Now, everyone and their mom, everyone has cell phones. Yeah. So it's very, very difficult to keep mission details discreet. So we got to the point at the beginning of the deployment, we would go to hit targets and it would be a dry hole, meaning no one would be there. And we'd ask any elder that was still there, like, hey, how did you know, why is there no one here? And he'd say, we knew you were coming. Yeah. So we got to the point towards the end of the deployment of, we didn't use any names for areas or give any hint to what we were doing. We only had a poorly made mock-up of what it would somewhat look like on the ground, so the commandos knew where to go. And before the mission, or the day before, we would collect everyone's cell phone. So we would collect the cell phone for 2 reasons. One, so they couldn't communicate once they knew the details of where we were going, but also to rip all of their information to see who was communicating back to other people. So it was a twofer. fast forward, the whole deployment, I learned that I had the ability to be burnt out when you work all the time, and not give yourself time to just give yourself a break,
Decompress.
because I would be so concerned about letting down my team or my team sergeant of like not being busy, always looking for work. And then, I look across the hall and the 18 Deltas just there on his guitar. And then you have the Echoes who, not for nothing, but if the radios work, there's really nothing left for them to do. So they're watching movies, and I'm 18 Bravo, that's weapons, ammo, and everything else. So I'm like making sure all the gun trucks have ammo. I'm making sure all the weapons are maintenance. All the shooting drills and timelines are all set up at the range and all this other stuff. So I kind of just like burnt myself out. And I learned like, okay, you need to pace it, right? So the second deployment was way different. I had a deployment under my belt. I wasn't arrogant, but I was confident and knowing what I had to do. And I had gotten to that point where I was like, okay, if death is coming for me, it's coming. I can't worry about it because I can't stop it. And I think I took it a little bit too literal, because when we got into engagements, it's not that I wouldn't take the engagements seriously, but I would know that, okay, someone's shooting at us from 300 meters away. What are the odds that they're going to hit me? So I would just get up, walk across my next position instead of running and diving, because I'd say, oh, if he's lucky enough to hit me, then it's meant to be. So, and there, we'd have like support guys. A support guy has a video of me. Because have you ever seen that movie? I think it was like We Were Soldiers or like We Were Men, something like that.
We Were Soldiers. No.
Yeah. Where like they're all in a gunfight, and the team sergeant's walking up, and they're all like in their little foxhole, and he's walking up. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" He's like, "Shoot back." And he's just casually just walking to the next thing. So that was kind of like the mentality I had, where we would be on a rooftop and the support guy would be like, "Oh, we're getting shot at." And then I'd kind of be just on a knee like, "What are you doing? Shoot back." And I would get up, and
that's experience as well. So, that comes along. I think everybody's first combat deployment, you're definitely more amped up, anxiety ridden, because you're going into the unknown. You haven't experienced it yet. You haven't experienced the tick. I mean, you hear about it, you hear stories, and, of course, all the stories that you hear, guys are, that half it's embellishment, half it's, oh my gosh, this and this, they make it seem like, holy crap, this is what I'm getting into. And I think, there's no other choice, on your first deployment. You have all this pressure on you too, where it's like, am I going to perform? Am I going to do the right things while rounds are flying over my head? Am I going to be able to do this? And I think once you get rid of those bugs, you're like, all right, I've survived that. Cool. The next, each deployment, especially for me, each deployment, you're like, okay, I've been in this scenario already. All right. And there is that, if a bullet's going to hit me, it's going to hit me, man. I am going to try and mitigate it from happening, but I'm also not going to lose my head every time there's rounds flying. And there's that saying, it's calm breeds calm. You are going to take people on. You're going to have new guys in your platoon. You're going to have support guys. Yeah, they're going to be freaked out. So if you, as an older guy or even as a leader, is sitting there screaming, running around like, oh, it's all that's doing is just causing confusion and chaos down the line. But you are calm, even it doesn't matter. The rounds are already flying. There's nothing you can do about that. It's happening. So the best you can do is have your composure and start directing and start telling guys what to do in a calm, precise manner. That's what get the jobs done. If you are on the guy on the comms that's contact right, dude, you are gonna send that negative, or not negative, but like this energy down the rest of everybody else, and no one's going to be able to really process what exactly is going on. You need to leave bandwidth for everybody to be able to process what's going on and to then start making the right calls or putting themselves in the right position. You yelling and being excited takes up their bandwidth, and they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's freaking out or yelling, what am I going to do?
So as like a junior guy, think of yourself as like a kid, essentially. You're not, but you are. And then you look up to your older sibling or your parental figure, which in this case is the more senior guy. and they're cool, calm, and collected, you're like, he's not worried, so I have no reason to be worried.
No.
And I'm just gonna. It helps you focus and think straight. But if he's freaking out, you're like, this guy's done 8 combat deployments and he's freaking out. Like, this is not.
Yeah.
This is not good.
It almost like the principle. I
Yeah.
get the like as a medic, I get it with
If you were shot, and I came up to help you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you're bleeding all over, and like I'm freaking you out. Or if I came up and like, hey, buddy, everything's gonna be good. I got you, man. And even if you are in the most dire situation,
Yeah.
I'd rather have you in that state of like, okay, I trust you, and let me do my work, rather than freak you out and make the situation worse.
no.
You're going to end up fighting him.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the print. I don't have that experience, but
Yeah.
like I get it's like an extreme version of this prince. Yeah. You know, in leadership and running a company, if I freak out,
Yeah.
guys are going to be like they'll be freaking out coming up to me about stuff. Oh, we're going to lose this customer or something. I mean, it seems trivial when you compare it to war, but
It's the same principle.
but the principle, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, we'll lose them. And like, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's good. And then you'll just see them calm down.
Yeah.
You'll see them begin to think rationally.
Yeah. It's, I go back to same, but different. Like, that's why all these tier 1, tier 2 operators come out and then they advise and assist in these Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
The principles are the same. It's just applied to a different aspect of whether it's business or war. If you stay cool, calm, and collected, everyone else follows suit.
What's wild though is as completely non-military, like almost the opposite end, like entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
right? I think of, man, you guys have that principle ingrained in such a deeper, better way. Like you're so equipped to help.
Well, here's the other thing, and I'll add a caveat.
They think they don't. Yeah, I don't know.
I'll add a caveat onto that. Like, yes, the same principles apply in every business across the spectrum.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I think people are like, oh, the military and the leadership, and they get, they have the best leadership. Bullshit. I'll tell you right now, there is a belief system within the military, or especially within special operations. It's like everybody believes in what they're doing. They believe in the mission. They all have a similar purpose. So you can put a shitty leader or a good leader. It's going to be the same outcome. Like, it does not matter. So if you have a shitty leader who, doesn't really know what he's doing, might be a little bit incompetent, maybe arrogant, maybe, across the board, all the crappy characteristics. The guys, and we talked about it before, it's like, even if you have a shitty leader, the dudes themselves are like, we're still going to accomplish the mission and we're going to do it the best we can, with or without this guy. Even if we have to do it with him, we are still going to attack this problem and crush it. But if you have a good leader, obviously it just makes it that more enjoyable. But either way, like, I think people have this misconception, like, oh, you were a leader in the military? Come solve our Fortune 500 problem. And it's like, dude, go ahead and try and apply some of the same leadership principles to this Fortune 500 company. It's not going to work because now you're dealing with a whole slew of other problems where maybe people at that company don't really believe in what they're doing. They're just there for the paycheck. They're like, why would I do this? Why would I put in the extra effort? I'm just clocking in and clocking out. That's it. I don't have a belief in what this, job entails or whatever. I'm doing this just to survive. So there are different aspects that you have to look at. Just because you were a leader in the military does not mean those same principles are going to apply the same way when you go to a different company.
Yeah, it's a different culture, different environment.
Yeah, like imagine a military leader saying like, "Hey, you're going to do this," and they're like, "No,
that's not in my job." Just
doesn't work like that. You can't say, "All right, meet me out back with a 2-quart and your favorite CD." It doesn't work like that. They're like, they say no, and you're like, some people just don't know what to do because they've never been told no before. They have the authority in the military to be like, "You're going to do this, or you're going to get in trouble." And yes, that applies to some business, but people.
It's not.
No.
Yeah. There has to be a belief, and that's the one core thing. And I've talked to some other companies, and I'm just like, do the people wake up every morning excited to come in here?
Yeah.
Like wanting to be here. And they're like, oh, well, I'm like, there's your issue. Like, you have to create a belief in whatever you have going on here that people will come in on their day off if they have to accomplish whatever you want to get done. I'm like, until you have that, yeah, you're not going to be able to just sit there and tell people to do things and expect that it's going to get done 100%, because that
The
person,
culture issue.
yeah,
And that's building that culture, which, I mean, is top-down
yeah,
leadership.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, so did a couple combat deployments, got the t-shirt, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. The thing that I noticed is that after the first deployment, I kind of bounced back pretty quick as far as like to the day-to-day life. After the second deployment, I came back with a little bit more anxiety, a little bit more. It was harder to make that mental switch.
Is that because you have more action on the second deployment, or?
I just think it was just the mentality that you have to have while you're over there, or at least the one that I took, was everything I do every single day has a purpose, and it is to either be an asset to my team or to myself, or a liability. And I took it so serious that every single thing that I did every single day needed to drive me into that asset portion, whether it was finishing my degree, whether it was in the gym, doing whatever I needed to do, or setting up, breaking down my equipment, cleaning it, putting it back together, or taking the guys through some different shooting drills and maintaining our proficiency throughout the 6 months that we're there, between, downtime between missions. I got back and I was like, okay, I don't have that mission right now, and I didn't really know how to make that adjustment. And I asked a senior guy, Senior 18 Delta, who had about 4 or 5 deployments at that point. I said, is this a normal thing? He goes, yes, it's a normal thing. And it actually, the more deployments you do, the longer it takes to be able to switch back. And I was like, okay, no one really told me that, and I wasn't expecting it. And I was like, okay, this is a huge red flag for me, because I just wasn't able to, I couldn't be in like crowds, or I couldn't be in groups. Like, I was very uncomfortable, and I wanted to be home alone. And even when I was home alone, it was like a catch-22. Then I'm like, okay, I'm sitting home alone, not doing anything. I'm wasting my day. I'm wasting my time. I need to be doing something. And that was my mentality. And if I wasn't doing something, I felt like I was dying. I was moving backwards. So that resulted in its own source of issues later on down the line once I transitioned out. So before I get to the transition part, after my last deployment, I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this new cult thing called CrossFit, right? And I was like, okay, I want to be really strong, but I also want to be able to run and ruck a lot, because it was the ideal shape that you had to be in to be a good soldier. So I did it. Had a couple buddies that did it and saw the shape that they were in, and they were just animals. They were machines. They could lift whatever you needed them to lift, run as far as you wanted them to run. And there was like, okay, I see somebody where I want to be, so I'm going to hang out with said person or do what they're doing to achieve the same goal. So I started doing CrossFit, and I was the type of guy who I didn't really do class. I kind of just wanted to do my own thing, because I was kind of just too cool for school. I had always lifted on my own in the teams. So this whole community thing was like very different for me. I wasn't used to interacting with people outside that weren't team guys, that were, just everyday people. And looking back, that wasn't the right mentality to have, but it was just what I had at the time. We all do the best that we can with what we have and what we feel like is the right answer, even though it may not be the right one at that time. So I started working out, and I noticed that other people started doing it too. So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Everyone looking to work out, better themselves. And one day, one of the coaches came up to me and was like, hey, I'm Ashley. And I was like, hey, like, I didn't really know how to talk. It's so weird, because, you do all these missions, you go through all this training, but talking to a female was like the next level. I was like, okay, I don't know how.
You got no game.
I got no game. Like, my game is movie quotes and being nervous and making very inappropriate jokes because my dark humor from the military just would override everything. And, you know, as you briefly saw when we were out there. And when I get nervous, I do that type of stuff. So she was a coach. I was a member. As I tell it, she's shaking her head. But so she approached me and was like, hey, you know, I'm Ashley. I'm a coach here. I want to introduce myself. Then we started. It no prior intention for me. I was just looking to work out. And, you know, as I got to know her better, as she got to know me better, we just organically led to us working out together and then doing more stuff outside of the gym, eventually talking or dating. And just literally just went from one thing to the next. And I had every intention of moving from 7th group to North Carolina because Raleigh was the young professional area in North Carolina. I had family that lived there and I was getting out, didn't really have anything to keep me here. So tales old as time, right? Met a girl. I was like, I don't have anything lined up. Let me just give it an extra month. And then 1 month turned into 3. And then we started dating and I was like, okay, maybe I'll just hang out for a while. And then COVID hit. So COVID hit during my transition period. And I was like, great. All of these grandiose ideas of working for all of these contracting companies is just shot because everyone had a freeze on hire. No one knew what was going to happen. It was supposed to be 2 weeks, turned into months. And I was like, okay, cool. I will just go back to school. I'll use my GI Bill to get a degree in physical therapy. So that was my plan now. I was like, okay, I need to do something. Nobody's hiring. I can't get work. So I'll get paid to go back to school. And I'll, at the same time, I'll do some side stuff, right, just to make ends meet. So I was in school, did it for a year. Throughout that process, I ended up marrying my now wife, Ashley. And it was, you know, almost like the perfect storm where I was like, I took the risk. I was like, you know, I'll stay. Worst case, doesn't work out and I'll move anyway. And, you know, we got married and it just one thing just led to another. And it turned out to be an amazing, amazing life that I live now. So COVID happened. I went to school, but we would just work out all day. We would just work out all day and it was amazing because it was something we did together. Right. So we'd work out all day. I was in the best shape of my life because I had so much downtime. I would do my online classes and then work out, do another class, work out. And as you know, some people correlate to being like on deployment when you have a lot of downtime. So we did that. And then we just had an honest conversation of like, do I want to be in a profession? Because I love physical therapy. Do I want to be in a profession that solely relies on me being there? Is that the business that I want to have? Meaning it cannot run unless I am there. Which with her family's background in business ownership, I was like, no, I don't want that because it means if I get sick or something happens where I get hurt, our income stops. And I don't want that. So I had to shift gears to kind of find what we wanted to do.
That's a hard shift.
Yeah.
It's a hard shift when you're used to performing. And going, hey, how I got to think of creating something that is outside of my performance.
Yeah. And again, now you lose all structure. I was going back to school, so I had that structure. If I do these classes, I get this certification, this degree, I get this career. It's all laid out for me. So all that, you know, I lost my paycheck because I didn't go to I'm not in the military anymore. I lost my structure. I'm like, okay, what is my purpose now? What is my mission? That was the hardest thing to define at that time. And we got married, we had a kid. I'm like, okay, now I'm in a position where through her pregnancy is when I was going to school. And I mean, the timeline is a little bit different, but I was going to school while she was pregnant and still trying to train to be an athlete because I wanted to compete in CrossFit on some amateur level because I needed to pursue something. If it wasn't a degree now, it was working out. But now I'm like, okay, I have a wife and kid on the way and a side hustle that that's not going to be there forever. So I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? So whatever you pray for, you're going to get. And the timing isn't always the best. And it's a good thing. So we had our son. We bought a house. We got a dog. And we started a business all within 1 year. A lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. When I was in the military, I left because I had prayed, God, help me find a healthy relationship and help me create a family. That because while I was in, I was gone so much. I couldn't sustain a relationship. Any relationship that I did have wasn't healthy because it was surrounded by drinking and with my coping mechanisms at the time. And I attracted those type of people. So when I met her, at that time I was 29, so I was a little bit older, and right off the bat asked tough questions. What is your view on religion? Do you want kids? Do you want to get married? For second or third date. Cool. Check. And was like, all right, let's see where it goes. And it's kind of hard for me to put into words like how this wasn't my plan. This was the plan that God had for me, and it was better than I could have ever imagined. It was amazing. You pray for something, and He will either take away everything to put you on the path to get what you pray for, or He will give you everything you're asking for when you're ready. Because you need to be able to be that person, to be that man, to essentially not screw it up.
No, I agree.
When you get it. So I had all these great things happening for me. We had the opportunity to start this business. It literally was, we were thinking one day, how cool would it be if we opened up a gym and essentially got paid to do what we love and help other people do the same thing. And then, a week or two later, a business down the road, the owner was looking to kind of get out. He was burnt out. And we're like, oh, we have a lot going on. We have a newborn. We have a house, a dog. Like, I don't know if we can do it. A month went by. He came back. It's like, hey, let's revisit it. And we're like, okay. So we put in an offer on the business.
He already had a CrossFit gym set up.
He had a gym set up, and we took it over and completely revamped everything.
Sure.
Because he was a one-man show, and he had his way of doing it, and then we had our own vision. And once we revamped it, because we had some experience of being a part of CrossFit gyms and knowing what the common pitfalls or like what to do and what not to do vaguely as amateurs. So we're like, oh, we got this. We're going to put some fresh paint, have awesome music. We're going to have people work out. We're just get paid for it. So that worked in the beginning. We attracted a lot of attention because it was a brand new name, new kid on the block. There was a buzz. It worked well for the first 2 years. And then we're like, why aren't we growing? What are we missing? And then we're like, okay, we need a mentor. We need someone to tell us how to do this professionally and to help us when our emotions or our story of why we're not succeeding isn't working. So we took a risk. We opened up a 0 interest business credit card, hired a mentorship program, and 11 or 12 grand later for the first year, they're like, hey, this is what you have to do. And it was a lot. It was a lot to change because we were doing a lot of stuff wrong that we didn't know that we weren't doing. And we changed a lot within that year. Slowly over the year, we changed a lot. And through growth, there are some, growth is painful.
Mm-hmm.
So the business went down a little bit and then it went up and then it would go down a little bit up each time. So it was just kind of that ebbs and flows. And knowing how to apply what you learn in the team, staying cool, calm, and collected during rough times, and knowing that if you keep doing the right thing consistently enough, you'll eventually go back up. And with entrepreneurship, you have to have that defined goal. Like, what does success mean? Because if you don't, you'll fall into that trap of, I got to keep working, make more money. And with that, you don't have to, but it's a good idea to kind of stay within your means. Don't say, hey, I'm making this much now, so I can afford this $100,000 car.
It's such a common mistake people do. Yeah.
And then the business takes a hit because it's the slow season now. And you're like, what do I do? So again, learning experience. We learned all that stuff where we had, there was a direct correlation. The more we earned, the more we spent. The less we earned, the less we spent. So we're like, okay, how is this happening? And it's because like all the stuff that we wanted on day one, we became impatient. We're like, okay, all these cool shiny toys, new equipment, we have this much money now. Instead of putting it forward for a rainy day or emergency fund, we're going to spend it because it's just going to come again next month. That's the mentality you have as an amateur when you see this, right? So we learned all of these things the hard way because there were no instructors saying, hey, this is how you be successful. This is what you have to do. Now that we have the mentorship, we have that. But again, it's still a gray area when it comes to your business because every business is run differently, especially with CrossFit gyms, is that you go into an Orange Theory, F45, all these franchises, McDonald's, they all run the same exact way. They tell you what to do and how to do it, and you do X, Y, and Z. This is how you're successful. With CrossFit gyms, you're paying for the license to use the word, and that's it.
Yeah, so you can do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want, which has its own pitfall to it because you get someone who has only ever known franchises. They join the CrossFit gym down the street. They get hurt or they have a really bad experience, and now they're like, all CrossFit gyms are like this, when they're all independently owned and run completely differently at different standards, which makes it very difficult to have that conversation with people. Of like, I go to a shooting range and I had such a bad experience because they only allow you to shoot one round every 15 seconds. And then I go to Stronghold and they're like, hey, just rapid fire. Right. So it's having that conversation of what CrossFit really is, which is functional movements, constantly varied, performed at high intensity, and all of these other people's own definitions of what it is, meaning what they see on TV. People pulling 600 pounds, these are pro athletes, but they compare going to the CrossFit gym to these pro athletes.
Yeah. Well, it's because of their name.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's half the battle of telling people like this is the sport and this is what it actually is. The methodology is that the methodology itself applies to everyone. Okay. So CrossFit is for anyone, but it's not for everyone, if that makes sense. Anyone can do it, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people like the training that, the boot camp style or burn.
That's the new hotness, High Rocks.
High Rocks. Yeah.
High Rocks.
Yeah. So we're taking advantage of that. So we are a High Rocks affiliate. So now we have both CrossFit classes and High Rocks. So people walk in, they're like, ooh, CrossFit, I've heard about that. I'm like, great. Have you heard about High Rocks? And then they do High Rocks and they're like, guess what? You just did CrossFit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you, man, because I've seen all these High Rocks videos and people are like, now it's like it's the new cult, and it's like and what is, because I've watched some of the videos and like to me the only difference from what I see is like it's a team. High Rocks is almost like a team effort, but you're still doing the same movements or like, and it's a little bit of more running in between.
Yeah, so High Rocks High Rocks is known and knowable, meaning you know how far you have to run, what the stations are. So they have 8 independent stations. So they have sled push, sled pull, ski erg, row, lunges, farmer's carry, and then 2 other ones, burpee broad jumps, and one other one. And between each station, you run 1K. Anyone can do that. Very low barrier to entry where I could pull you and I could go to your race tomorrow because you can run, you can row, you can hold, 35 pounds in your hands, do farmer's carry.
And Dave can't do that.
If I can, so it's a team effort, right? But we would know how far we have to go in order to complete the race. And wall balls, that was the last one. With CrossFit, you are preparing for the unknown and unknowable. Meaning you not only have to be well conditioned, but you have to be very skilled or moderately skilled in gymnastics, weightlifting, running, rowing, all of these things, being able to lift heavy weight or heavy load under fatigue, which at the end of the day, it's all relative. What I mean when I say relative is that we say at high intensity, but it's really at relative high intensity, meaning if I go for a run with Eddie, which first and foremost would be a huge mistake, his 80%
right now it's fine.
His 80% effort may look like a 6-minute mile. My 80% effort would look more like an 8-minute mile, right? But it's the same intensity. It just looks slightly different. And then if we're to correlate that with lifting weights, my 80% may look like 200 and his 80% may look like 250,
160. Yeah.
So it's same, but different. So same amount of effort, it just looks slightly different. And some people are okay with that. Some people understand it and grasp it. Other people just don't want to be different. They don't want to do hard things in order to get where other people who have been doing it for years get to. So they look at someone and immediately write it off because they see them doing wild stuff on their hands and lifting all this weight. They're like, well, I can't do that. Well, like, yeah, of course you can't because you haven't been doing this the last 10 years.
And neither could that person.
Correct.
5 years ago.
But they compare their chapter 1 to everyone else's chapter 10. And it's just self-defeating sometimes with people like that. They already limit themselves by their mental state before even trying. So that leads into the transition piece where I have a kid now. I'm married. I have a home, a business, a thriving business. What do I have to complain about? I have all these things that I prayed for. I'm in some aspects, a very wealthy man. I'm very successful in having everything I ever wanted. Why do I feel the way that I feel? Why do I feel so sad? Why do I have these thoughts of not being enough?
Discontentment.
Why do I come home and feel like I'm just a disappointment despite all of this other stuff happening, good stuff? And it leads down to the trauma that we spoke of before. And when I sought help, there was from the business mentorship that we got for our gym, ironically, there was someone there who did and still does talk therapy, right? So you're able to speak with him. He has his own company. I'll just do a shameless plug, Proclivity Method. Joel Cochran is the man when it comes to this stuff. It's all telemed. So on Zoom call, you speak to him and he's able to swiftly identify what is going on and digging down to the nitty gritty of what is happening. So when I started working with him, I had all of these other things going on at the same time. I did So I did talk therapy with him, or therapy. I did HBOT, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which I was in the same boat as you, where I had to do 40, they recommended 40 sessions. So it's 40 1-hour sessions, Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So it took 2 months, roughly, or 40 days. And halfway, they told me from the get-go, you're not going to feel anything until about halfway through. So the first half, you're so used to instant results that your brain is like, why am I wasting
Why are we
time?
doing this?
Yeah. On the back end, probably around session between 25 and 40 is when you really start to feel the effects, where I woke up well rested. My mental fog was almost gone. It was getting better. My memory was getting better. My reflexes to being able to identify something and put the word to it, because I was word finding. After my last deployment, I developed a stutter. I would speak and not be able to find the words, very simplistic words of what I was trying to communicate. And when I went to go talk to someone about it, they're like, "Oh, you're just tired. You're good." I'm like, "No, I'm telling you I'm not." They're like, "Oh, you're just tired. You're good." And they're like, "Try this." And I'm like, "Okay." So I had all these things going on at the same time, and I also got the ganglion block.
I've done that twice. Yep.
So I flew out to Maryland, to the doc that.
Yeah, probably the same doc I went to. I did the same. Yeah.
So
At
he.
Bethesda.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he injected me in both sides to affect both sides of the brain.
Get that nice eye-like things.
Oh yeah,
I
I sent it to her. Yeah. I mean, this thing was huge, and essentially what it does is it resets your central nervous system, so it doesn't fire as it's not as sensitive, right? So the way that I had it explained to me was like, for operators or for anyone on deployments, every time you hit your fight or flight, this flap opens up, floods the body with adrenaline, and then it shuts for any normal person, right? Because the fight or flight is your body's sensing danger, trying to defend itself. With operators, when you have this open for 6 months, it loses the ability to completely close after each deployment. So maybe after the first deployment, why it bounced back so fast was because it just kind of had a very small opening, but after the second deployment, it stopped here. And every little thing would.
And your deployments are like, I see
Yeah,
it.
I've told that story on here before. Yeah, like when I got out, I went and got tested, and I came back, and the guy busted out the pie chart or like the graph, and he's like, "This is a normal person," and it was pretty much even. And then he was like, "This is you." And so I was in. You're in fight or flight 98% of your day.
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's impossible." And he's like, "No, you are in fight or flight 98%." And I was like, "So I'm in fight or flight right now?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, I don't feel like it." But he told me, he's like, "Because you've been in fight or flight for a decade. Yeah, like this is your new norm. Like this is your normal, every day, and this is why you are having." And then he was like, you wake up angry?" I'm like, "Yeah." "You wake up wanting to fight?" "Yeah." And he's like, "Because your body is in fight or flight, and it wakes up and it has this response." And he's like, "That's, we need to get this back down." And so I eventually got to that point, but yeah, it's like that flap was it was broken. It's like, dude, it's not closed anymore.
So the hinges were off.
Yeah.
Had breached you. You have breached you. I mean, you did the work. You did the job. So I essentially threw the kitchen sink out of this. I was like, I need to do anything and everything to get as healthy as I possibly can.
Did you find that? I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. But did you find that ganglion block wore off?
Yeah. So that I was briefed that it would only last a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And some guys have to do repeated sessions in order to finally get the everlasting effects. What I was also told was if you combined the time that the block is in effect with therapy, it multiplies the effects of it. So at that point, I had already did 12 weeks of therapy and then got the shot. So now I had the tools, and I was able to process this past trauma before I got this shot. So it did its thing that I was supposed to do to the point that it was supposed to, I guess. I'm really, I only know what it, like it was the norm for me, just like it was for you. So I have to really rely on the outside perspective of my wife telling me like, you seem different. You're way more chill, or, it didn't work. You need to try it again type thing. So we were able to find out that my trauma outside of the military stemmed from my childhood, and which will allude to why I always want to be an overachiever. My parents did the best they could with what they had, and I will never hate them for that, because they just did. One of the quotes that has stuck with me recently was, be kind to your parents because it's their first time here too.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard that, I was like, all of my bitterness or resentment completely dropped against my parents. Because, I would have the story of like, how could they feel like this was the right decision? Why did they do this instead of this? How could they not know this? It was just a different time.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have the information or the tools that we have now, the research that we have now versus back in the 80s or the early 90s. They didn't have any of that stuff, so they were doing the best they could.
I also feel, like, because I know exactly what you're saying, and I had a great childhood. My parents were great, but there's trauma that lies within that. But I also am like, I understand. I have 3 kids of my own, and I'm like, they're gonna have to, like, I'm sure I did things that have screwed them up or added something, and that's just the way of life. Like, I think you're trying, as the generations pass, you're trying to cut out whatever generational trauma. It's like, okay, I want to end this with me. But the reality is, like, there's going to be little effects that go on. But all you got to do is like, hey, as long as you are better than I was at your age right now, you're way ahead of this, the spectrum.
No one will ever want you to do better than them other than your parents.
Yeah.
They're the only people in your life that genuinely want you to do better than them. So like we were able to identify through storytelling. He would say, all right, list all the things that are bothering you right now. So he gave me 3 minutes. He's like, just write it all down. So I jotted everything down, and he had me read each and every line. And for whatever reason, the line about my dad really was tough for me to get through. I was just so emotional. I couldn't get through that one line of just my dad wanting to be around me as a kid. He was an entrepreneur and he was always busy. And, as soon as he got home, went straight to the computer, did work. And he would be home and he would be there. He just wouldn't be present. And as a single parent, he had to provide with the only way he knew how, which was work.
Mm-hmm.
But it left me wondering, as a kid, because I didn't know any better, what am I doing wrong that he doesn't want to spend time with me? Mm. And that had in itself mutated into this belief that if I do something significant enough, I can gain his attention and ultimately his approval. What makes it so difficult was he also had me describe all of the characteristics that he did that made you feel this way. And then he had me read them. And he said, what was difficult about reading those things? And I said, that's me. It's me. It's me. Yeah. Oh. Buried myself in work. Would not give my kids the attention if work called. There was a fire to put out. There was something that, in my mind, needed to be done right now. It couldn't wait until tomorrow. It couldn't wait 20 minutes to sit down and play. And he said, that's what's giving you this pain. And he said the only way to work through trauma is pretty much the exact opposite of what society tells us to do as men. Suffer in silence, suck it up. Nobody cares. Is you have to be able to sit with the pain and the trauma in order to fully process and grieve. Because you can bury it, but it's still going to be there. And it's going to show its ugly head in the worst possible time in your kids or your spouse or in a situation that has no business being there. So once I was able to identify that in myself and say, wow, I am being my dad right now. It had a lot of introspective, self-reflective work where, okay, now I need to be intentional to change these habits, change these beliefs that I have. And once we had our second kid, because at this point in time, my son was 4 and my daughter had just been born. And now it is a core belief that when I'm home, I'm home. Unless somebody is dying at work, it can wait. It completely has changed my relationship with my kids, my mental state. And the thing that Eddie hit the nail on the head is that these negative thoughts that led me down this dark path, they don't disappear. They don't go away. They're still there. You just now have to apply that same work religiously and consistently every day to diminish the amount of hold that they have on you. Right? You have, you've heard the saying, you have 2 wolves. Which one grows stronger? Whichever one you feed.
Yep.
So if you starve this long enough, doesn't mean it'll go away, but it means that it will be so weak that it won't have any hold on you any longer. So that is the process that I've been chipping away at through this year. And being sober, getting my blood work right through hormone replacement therapy, because when you're have that adrenaline, it crushes your testosterone, which as men is what we need. And when I got tested, the normal range is between 300 and 1,000 nanograms per deciliter, which is just the range. I tested at 180.
Wow.
200. And
There's a lot of that because the cortisol levels
yes.
from fight or flight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and lifestyle too. Alcohol suppresses it, lack of sleep. Then you add in stress and
We're self-destructive animals.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, if I'm doing this already, I might as well do this. I'm going down. So
yeah, if you're drinking every day and you're on a SEAL team and you're still crushing it by their standards, oh, you're fine. You're fine. You're good. If you can shoot straight, run with the best of them, perform, and still drink like a fish, you're healthy. You're good. Right?
yeah, and if you ask the person, they're going to tell you they're fine.
Yeah.
When I was in a leadership position, I had a guy that was going through something, and he was like, I'm fine. And I was like, I talked to my O, and I was like, let's talk to his wife. I'm like, that's the only way we're going to know.
No.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it might seem intrusive, and I even thought it was at the time, but at the end of the day, we got exactly what was going on, and it was a lot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like we came down on the person.
No.
We're just like, dude, let's get you the help that
Yeah.
you need so you can become a better operator.
Yeah. And it was tough. I mean, I've never, no one really knows the struggle that I went through at the beginning of the year, except my wife and except one other Green Beret that I called who knows exactly what I'm going through. And he was able to, I literally called him in my bathroom saying, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And he was like, yeah, man, I know. And it was just it wasn't what he said. It was just him just being there for me. I sent him one text. He immediately called me and was just present and on the phone with me for however long it took to kind of bring me back down, calm me back down. And that's all I needed to save me in that moment. And between that, the therapies that I did, and knowing that if I'm in trouble, I have people that I can call and just be there for me. Listen to what I have to say, not judge me or give opinions on how to fix it. Just be there. That's all it takes, is just give someone your time of day. Let them know that they're not alone is all it really takes. And then just check in on them. That's really it. At least it was for me. And between that, the wake-up call of my wife being like, hey, something has to change. And now that I have kids, I revert back to, in this very moment, am I being the example or the warning? And in that moment, I was so selfish because I was in so much pain. I didn't think about the repercussions that they would have growing up without a dad. And that my purpose and my new mission in life now is to guide them to be the best that they can be and better than I am, and to show them that the struggles that I have can be overcome, and that like someone was there for me, I'm going to be there for them. That is my new mission and purpose in life, is to be the shining example and just the best follower and disciple of God, best husband and father. The business stuff will always be there. You can always make more money, but when they are a certain age, you only have that once. And that's where I am currently at in life, where it's not perfect. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right?
Never is.
But that is the one thing that is my new compass in life, is to do that. And
New purpose. Yeah, it sounds like.
And I'll leave you guys with this one trick. You can do this it's a really, really interesting activity you can do with your spouse. You can do it with yourself when you have those moments of self-doubt or negative thoughts. It's such a cool trick. So what you do is you write down everything that is bothering you in that moment. I am not worthy of love. I am not good enough. I'm a terrible parent. I am X, Y, and Z. Just give yourself a time cap. Give yourself 3 minutes, right? Write down all the things bothering you, and then give it a name of like who is saying these things, because it's not you. It's some story or some voice in your head saying this. So let's just give it the name of John, right? So you have the name, you have all of these things that they're saying about you. Now, pick a voice or dialect of what this person sounds like when they say these things about you. So for me, it was, I think the guy's name was Johnny, and his voice was white trailer trash. So it was me reading this, but from his perspective, and he is saying these things to me. And as I was saying it from his perspective to me, I'm like, why would I listen to anything you have to say? Now I would just start laughing, because it's a mental flip of, it's like a homeless person saying like, hey, you suck.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. Got it. But if you say these things and from someone who you would never take advice from or you would never look up to, it means nothing. It holds no weight. The only weight it holds is what you give it. That's really it. And it's so freeing to know that all of these negative things or struggles that someone has, or victim mentality of like, oh, they're doing this to me, versus what did I do to have this come about, or what can I change to make this situation better? It ultimately comes down to just your perspective of like in what weight you give it. So for me, my hidden talent is I can find the good in almost anything, in any silver lining. Even when we were getting smoked it's called Black Friday. We had 2 hours of log PT, 2 hours of rifle PT. And guys would be like, oh, I can't do this. Like, this sucks. I'm like, dude, I'm psyched. Let's go get our butts kicked. This is great. Just keeping that morale and that mentality. It's hard to do by yourself. That way it's important to let your spouse or someone else know that you're having these thoughts, to have that reassurance at certain times. But this one mental trick, it's such a cool activity to do with significant other, or maybe with somebody who you know is struggling. And it's like you both can laugh at each other, and it just lightens the mood so much.
I'm gonna write little things down, but I'm gonna have it in your voice. Yeah,
You thought about that joke. It's like, my guy's name's Eddie.
yeah.
You're not good enough.
He calls me gay all majority. Yeah,
You're gay.
you
know you are.
are gay.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Joe, that's great. It loses the power.
Yeah.
It loses the power. You're
No,
going, hey, I'm giving this so much power, these voices so much power and so much influence.
yeah.
Why? It's not true.
And it's not to hype yourself up or be like, oh, I'm a Navy SEAL, right?
Yeah.
It's not to be like, oh, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. Yeah, you don't look in the mirror and be like, oh, I'm as good as a Navy SEAL.
I get up the same way as you guys do. So when I get up, I put on my pants. I make gold records.
Make your bed. Yeah, you make your bed. You get your hair gel in.
Yeah.
Look good, feel good, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's a cool little trick that I like to bestow upon people. Plant that seed and just allow it to grow. And if you do that long enough, that and with a lot of other stuff, it will bear fruit. You just have to give it time. Nothing happens overnight.
No, and you got patience. You got to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Learn how to give yourself grace, because we are hard. We are very hard at doing that. Know that you are going to mess up. And like you said, nothing's going to be peaches and cream the rest of the time, just because you have got this introspective, which is a good thing. It's like, okay, now pushing forward, I'm just going to try and better myself. It's that 1% rule. I'm just going to try to be 1% better the next day. Don't overwhelm yourself. Like, I have to get to this point, because then that's just going to revert you back to I'm not where I want to be. I gave myself like this much time. I ran into that problem where I was a mess when I got out. I was like, dude, good luck deconstructing this. And then once they started doing it, and then I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little better. But I made the mistake of, oh no, I'm good now. Like, now I figured out I've got the way to work around this. And then I would get frustrated every time it would happen again. I'm like, I thought I was over with this, and it's like, no, man, you're not. But you have the tools to overcome it.
Yeah.
It's just not getting down on yourself just because it's like, dude, when is the easy street coming?
Yeah.
It's never coming. Life's not easy. Life's hard.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one going through this. Everybody does, which is like what I wanted to say. You coming on here, we had talked earlier, and you were like, this is the first time I've ever really talked about this on a podcast or open between anyone. I think that right there in itself is a giant step as well, because one, you're able to be vulnerable. And that is the hardest thing from guys, especially from guys from our profession, to do, is to be opened up and be like, dude, here's me on my good and bad, right? This is the things I've done. Two, your story, believe it or not, like, is so common between all of us.
I've heard it so many times.
Yeah, we've had guys, and it's not to say like your story isn't special to you, but it's like, dude, this is a common thread. It doesn't matter, guys. You did 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20. Everyone faces the same predicament pretty much when they get out. And a lot of it, even our past traumas, it's like, yeah, childhood, buddy. You got daddy issues. It's like, so do I. Most of us do. But what's cool, man, is you sharing this story. Guys are going to be listening and like, dude, okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what helped me get through when I first got out. I had no clue what podcasts were. And then I started listening to some, and we find guys like, oh shit, what's this guy? I know this dude. And then when he opens up and he's like, bro, this is what I'm going through. You're like, huh. Okay, so I'm not the only one, because I think that's what makes us isolate ourselves too. It's like, like you talked about, I don't want to be a liability. I want to be an asset. So how can I be an asset if I'm feeling this way? And then we seclude ourselves. And then before long, it's like, hey, dude, you talk to him? No, I haven't talked to him in a while. Nobody has.
Yeah.
So I think, this open dialogue that we have and being able to share your experiences. And then also like, dude, you're on a path to betterment. And it's because of your faith. It's because you have your wife. You have this nucleus. You have this newfound purpose. I had to shift my perspective too, man. It was like I was so focused on team mentality, and whatever's like my family, everything comes second. It's whatever the team needs. I am going to be the best teammate possible.
Yeah.
All I had to do is like keep that same mentality, except my team is my family.
Switch team.
This is my new platoon. Like,
Yeah.
and whatever they need, I'm going to be there for them. Like, and no longer will they come in second to anything. But that's not such an easy shift either. It's like you have to work on that. And once you realize, it's like, dude, this is my team, and I'm the captain now. You know what I mean? And you're setting the tone as the man of the house.
Doesn't always follow my orders.
Yeah, but sure. Yeah, I got a team of pirates. Believe me. I'm like, and I like it. I'm like, it's my little pirate ship. Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm really glad that you came on today and shared your story, dude. And then,
I think it's one of the most effective stories that need to be told.
yeah,
And you're not saying, hey, if you're struggling, this is what you need to do. You're not saying it. You're saying, this is what's going on with me. This is what I've done. This is what I'm doing. I'm still on that journey.
yeah,
Like everyone else.
It's a never-ending journey, and I think the one main thing that stops people from wanting to get help is shame.
Yeah.
They feel shameful that they're in this position when they told themselves the belief that they have no reason to be, or I didn't do anything significant enough to feel this way. Why should I feel this way, or why should I be treated like the guy who went to war for 20 years? And why do I feel the same way? I shouldn't feel this way. And it's denial and it's shame. And I think once guys move past that and learn that the lie that we've been told our whole lives of talking about your feelings or showing emotion as weakness is actually a strength, because it allows you to move past it and not carry that baggage with you. Even though just because you carry it with you doesn't mean it's not heavy. And when something is heavy, you can't do much else after that. You can only carry so much.
yeah.
Yeah, I think of the irony of you having to walk around with an anchor physically.
Yeah.
It's like you were doing that afterwards.
That's
That's the story for walking around with handcuffs.
yeah. While carrying a hair.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, if people want to check out CrossFit / High Rocks.
Yeah. What's the name of the gym?
So the name of the gym is Miramar Beach Strength and Conditioning.
Okay.
We're located in Miramar Beach, Florida. In Miramar Beach, right next to Destin. We do anything and everything as far as personal training, CrossFit, High Rocks, physical therapy. You're pretty much your one-stop shop for if you are looking to do something fun, have a community, know that everyone in there is struggling and trying to better themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then come check us out.
Awesome. And just mine. You guys take TRICARE? You're joking. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just playing.
Yeah.
No, man, that's awesome. And
Leave a link.
yeah, we're definitely gonna put the link below.
Yeah,
so people can check you out. And dude, again, I just love seeing guys succeed, man, from our past career field. And just the fact that you have your own business, you're flourishing here, you got a family. I mean, like you said, you are successful.
Oh.
It's just what are you gonna what to do with that success going forward.
Yeah.
So we got a present for you.
Yeah. Oh, well, everybody comes on here. Yeah. I think I showed you this before. It's at Firecracker Farms. This one is the snake eater. So I figured that'd be fitting for a come to what? Yeah. So that is filled with snake eater that was designed by, or the flavor was designed by another Green Beret. And then I'll give you this extra pack of Apocalypto. I know you said you like some heat.
Yeah.
So taste this before you start putting it on. But yeah, that'll definitely bring some beautiful.
We're also gonna start with Jim's stuff.
Yeah.
It's gonna be soon.
Yeah, with the elevated silence.
Yeah,
Some suppressors. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, cool, brother. Dude, it was great talking to you. And then what I was gonna say, man, later on in your journey, if my wife and I run a Truth About Transition series where we have couples come on and talk about the struggles to transition and how they got to where they are now.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, we would love the opportunity for that to hear it from my wife's perspective, because I only know from my perspective and what I was feeling and what I was experiencing, and I think from the spouse's perspective would give a whole other insight of what was actually going on versus what was going on through my lens, which was I was acting normal.
Yeah.
But to her, she said,
Let me tell you what I was saying.
He's
fucking crazy.
yeah. So, it's that's a whole other, mission of healthy marriage, healthy relationship. It's a continuous effort too, never stop dating and listen to what they have to say. Maybe not do the dishes all the time, but, sometimes there's fault on us.
That is true.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So
Thank you, brother.
yeah, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Out.
Hey, what's up, guys? So when I'm not doing the podcast, I'm doing a lot of traveling. I put on training all over the country for LE and civilians. I also travel a lot for my nonprofit, the Pipe Hitter Foundation. And as you guys know, travel going back and forth can wear you down. But this past year, I have found the antidote. So let me put you on to Aquavita, Destin's premier IV therapy and oxygen bar. This place is owned and operated by a board-certified ER physician with over 23 years of experience, so you know your health is in good hands. Every IV drip is mixed to Board of Pharmacy standards and backed by CDC-level infection control. Whether you're dealing with a fatigue, a hangover, jet lag, stress, immunity issues, or even PMS, they've got custom vitamin drips and boosters tailored just for that. When you go inside, the place is pretty awesome. It puts you at ease right when you go in there. They have comfy lounge chairs, which are perfect for singles or couples, full group sessions. And you can even book the whole space for bachelor or bachelorette parties, race day recovery, or wellness events. While you're in there, they go the extra mile too. They'll give you blankets, sleep masks, earplugs, aromatherapy oxygen, all complimentary. And the best part, every visit includes direct care from the physician and experienced RNs, all focused on fast, safe, and affordable wellness. So if you're in the Destin area, hit up Aquavita. Your body will definitely thank you.